Welcome to the show, y'all. UAP Truth 33. I'm John. I'm your host. Listen to this, man. Today, we got a countdown. It's another countdown, but it's a better countdown. I don't know if it's better. More informative, maybe. So, what I'm doing is the top 10 disinformation campaigns that our government ran on their own citizens. So, that's today's episode. I hope you guys really enjoy it, because I know I am. Because it gets wild, man. Stay tuned. So, as I was compiling this wonderful list, very informative, of the top 10 disinformation campaigns having to do with UFOs, number 10, of course, because it's really insignificant in my eyes, but number 10 is the Pentagon's reframing of the UFO subject, how they left out the fact that when they changed the moniker to UAP, it actually eliminated space-based craft. So if they see something with a satellite in space, if NASA catches something in space, they don't have to report it or anything because it legally doesn't fall under the UAP moniker that they decided to change UFOs to. So this whole reframing that the Pentagon's been doing is not only that, but now, they're reporting to the Wall Street Journal that all of this is just disinformation, that the Pentagon is running this elaborate, constructed, false narrative to their own people because why? I don't know. They actually had pictures of Sean Patrick on there in the newspaper. So I guess they're trying to rehabilitate Dr. Kirkpatrick's, I don't even want to call him that, his reputation, because he's taken a massive hit as of late, especially after resigning from Arrow, kind of like almost disgraced, right? Whistleblowers don't trust him. He was this gatekeeper, is what they said. If they reported things to him, it just fell into a black hole. Let's get back to the reframing that the Pentagon's been doing about this UFO subject. They went so far as to say in this newspaper that this is a hazing ritual. That when officers come in, they'll show them UFO pictures and footage and have them sign NDAs and tell them this big BS story. And it's all part of the hazing ritual. And none of it's true. It's all fiction. And all these whistleblowers are misidentifying evidence as, being real when it's this elaborate trick. What is that? I mean, seriously though, hey, get this. It doesn't stop there. They go so far back as Malmstrom Air Force Base with Bob Solis, man, one of the most respected men to serve our country, who actually had his finger on the button. He was the one. If the shit hit the fan, he was the guy that you had to rely on, right? Excuse me. I'm getting myself freaking worked up, man. I'm fogging up my glasses. So anyway, they ran a experiment on them, they said. They used an electromagnetic pulse to shut down these missiles, right? But they never explained the red orb that was hovering above the base that everybody was freaking out about, right? But they said they were able to send this electromagnetic pulse through the wires down to the missiles, and they shut them down. But here's the thing with that. When you hit something with an electromagnetic pulse, it's not just going to pop back up a few minutes later. It's going to be down, man. It's going to be down. And this was during the Cold War, man. This was when we only had a few minutes. If they launched, we would only have a few minutes to decide what we were going to do, or else we were done. It was that intense of a situation in the 60s when this happened with Bob Solis at Mount. So that's number 10 on my list. And it's probably the most corniest of all, in my opinion. Hey, let's, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but I'm just putting mine out. I think that this Wall Street Journal article, they shouldn't even be on the list, but since it happened yesterday or the day before, I put it on the list. So, let's get into number 9. So, number nine on the list, Richard Doty. Yes, Richard Doty. This has been ongoing for almost 40 years. He appeared on the scene in the 1980s. He was an Air Force OSI agent. He ran a counterintelligence operation on an honorable man named Paul Bennewitz. Not only that, and we're going to get to that later about Paul Benowitz. Doty's going to show up on this list again, but for right now, as in for number 9, he's been appearing on Gaia, making claims about confrontations with elephant-nosed aliens with lobster claws and heads like bugs, and just wild claims. And the only thing I can say is he must think we're really dumb. That's what he thinks, and the fact that he's still in the UFO community browsing around and he's still able to spew this, in my eyes, it's offensive. But people are following him. People are listening to this garbage. But that's number 9 on the UFO disinformation campaigns, top 10. Stay tuned for number 8. Number 8 on the top 10 list, the disinformation tactics that the government has used about UFOs. The alien autopsy video. How'd you forget about that? Ray Santilly. So it was a British entrepreneur named Ray Santilly, said that he managed to find this alien autopsy video. It was like a grainy black and white video. It was supposed to be an alien from the 1947 Roswell crash. However, and this is what they do, and I'll explain in a minute. In 2006, Ray Santilli admitted that the whole thing was fabricated. But he claimed that the original was real, but they had to fabricate it because the original was damaged. So, in my eyes, and I'm going to explain this is my interpretation. You're welcome to have your own opinion, but what I believe, this is what they do. So they'll create a UFO case or a UFO, and they'll draw everybody's attention to it, right? Everybody's focused on this case. Okay, whoa, there was an alien autopsy. It was an autopsy of an alien in 1947 Roswell crash, right? So you're really into it. You're like, yo, this is real, and then everybody's talking about it, and then boom, it blows up, right? Then 9-10 years later, the guy comes out and says, oh, no, it was all fake. Or the government exposes it as a fake and shows some kind of evidence of such. But it's really damaging when the guy who put the video out admits that it's fake, right? Ray Santilli. These people are bugs. So that's number 8. And although I can't prove that was a government run operation. I'm not saying it was, but they sure as heck benefited from it. So Occam's razor tells you, and Occam's razor is usually the simplest. If there's a multitude of, possible outcomes or truths, usually it's the simplest one that's true. That's Occam's razor. So Occam's razor, yeah, the government probably put this guy up to it, probably paid him really nice, who knows? That's number 8. Stay tuned for number 7. All right, number 7. Number 7 on my list. Top 10 disinformation campaigns. You guys are going to love this one. Mirage Men. Yes, Mirage Men. So the Mirage Men strategy refers to a long-running U.S. intelligence operation that deliberately spread false UFO narratives to obscure classified military projects. This concept was explored by Mark Pilkington's book and documentary, Mirage Men. I hope I got his name right. I think I just butchered his name. But you know what I'm saying. The concept was explored, and the whole basis, the goal of all this was to mislead the public, and it was run by intelligence agencies. They manipulated UFO researchers to control public perception of unidentified aerial phenomena. One of the key figures in this strategy was Richard Doty. This guy's really popular in this list. I hope you guys pay attention to this. An Air Force intelligence officer who fed fabricated UFO evidence to researchers like Paul Bennewitz, leading to his mental breakdown. The government reportedly used similar tactics to redirect attention away from secret aircraft programs, such as the development of stealth technology at Area 51, which Philip Corso claims was alien technology anyway. But let's keep going. The Mirage Men strategy suggests that UFO mythology was intentionally cultivated as a cover for advanced military experiments, ensuring that genuine sightings of experimental aircraft were dismissed as alien encounters. This approach has fueled decades of disinformation, making it one of the most effective intelligence manipulations in UFO history. Number 6 is a fan favorite, right? And I love this guy. And they tried to destroy him. They tried to discredit him. They literally tried to erase his education history, his work history. This man was educated at MIT. He worked at Los Alamos. He put a rocket engine on the back of a car. And then that's how he got down to Area 51 for them to see if he could possibly back engineer this UFO that he saw. And this is Bob Lazar, man. The Bob Lazar discrediting operation. Bob Lazar is one of the most controversial figures in UFO history. In 1989, he claimed to have worked at S4, a secret facility near Area 51, where he allegedly helped reverse engineer alien spacecraft. He described the craft as using gravity wave propulsion powered by element 115, a substance unknown to science at the time. However, skeptics have pointed out the inconsistencies in his story, his educational background, which we already went over that. They tried to erase it, of course. You know, Caltech and all them could not be verified. MIT and Caltech. Both institutions have no record of them, which this is the stuff that they do. They tried to say Lou Elizondo never worked at the Pentagon, if you remember that. So, additionally, his employment at Los Alamos National Laboratory is disputed, though some evidence suggests he may have worked there in a technical capacity rather than as a physicist. Now, I believe he worked there as a physicist. I believe that, you know, he was in that newspaper. They had like a campus-wide newspaper, and I believe his rocket car was on the front page of it. And that's how they discovered him and sent him to S4. But you see how murky this whole thing gets, and it's going to get murkier later because there's actually an Area 51 operation. So here we go. Despite the doubts, Lazar's claims popularized Area 51 and fueled decades of speculation about government secrecy and extraterrestrial technology. His Joe Rogan podcast appearance in 2019 reignited interest, with many UFO enthusiasts still believing his story. And I do believe his story, and I do believe that this was a big disinformation campaign to try to destroy his reputation. And the fact that the Russians actually were able to uh, produce element 115. So element 115 actually exists, but in 1989 it didn't. So what's that tell you? What does that tell you? Occam's razor, folks. Remember I explained Occam's razor? It's simple, man. Bob Lazar, I believe, is the real deal. Let's keep going. Stay tuned for number 5. This is fun, ain't it? Let's go. All right, I messed up. Number 5. Number 5 on the top 10 list of disinformation campaigns that the government has run on its own citizens. It's a good one. And this one, this is what muddies the frickin' waters, man, because you look at this one and then you think about Bob Lazar and you're like, well, what do I believe? What am I supposed to believe? This is what they do, man. It's all about confusion. And this is what creates the tension in the UFO community. This is what gets people fighting each other's backs out and sending hit squads after people, to dox them and discredit them and get their channel taken down and all this. But this number 4 in the list is Area 51 disinformation operation, right? And it begins with a individual that worked at Area 51. He went to a nearby bar and he took these photos and he gave them to the owners of the bar, right? Well, it turned out that the photos were doctored, they were fake, they weren't even legit. They were of UFOs, right? And they did this in an attempt to get people to think they were seeing UFOs when they were actually seeing advanced military aircraft like the B-117 stealth. So, you get the idea. And but let me go through this, you know. So the Area 51 distraction refers to how the US government has historically encouraged UFO speculation around Area 51. I believe this. I don't think there's anything important at Area 51. I think that's just like a smokescreen, man. I think there probably used to be, but not anymore. Like, you remember the whole storm Area 51 book BS that was going on? I don't think there was anything there. I think it's. But anyway, let's get into it, right? So they chose to obscure its true purpose. You know what I mean? Testing classified military aircraft. And this was during the Cold War. The Air Force used Area 51 to develop stealth technology, including the U 2 spy plane. And later, the SR-71 Blackbird. However, the secrecy surrounding the base led to widespread UFO rumors, which intelligence agencies reported was allowed to flourish as convenient cover for their operation. Classified documents revealed that over half of UFO reports in the late 50s and 60s were actually sightings of high altitude reconnaissance aircraft like the U 2. The government did not correct these misconceptions, allowing the alien narrative to persist while keeping its advanced technology hidden. And this brings you back to like the people that were around back then that were saying that they were seeing these, you know, aliens and had contact with people from Venus. This was a thing back then. This tactic has continued into modern times, with Area 51 remaining a hotbed of UFO speculation despite its primary role as a military testing facility. And here we go with the Storm Area 51 movement in 2019, which encouraged people to see them aliens. See them aliens. This was another example of how the site's extraterrestrial mystique has been leveraged, whether intentionally or not, to divert attention from real defense projects. I mean, this is just what it is, man. It's what it is. What do you guys think? All right, let's get to the next one. But please, I really want to know what you guys think about that. Area 51. I mean, I think it's a smokescreen. I think it's created, and the mythology of it is perpetuated by the intelligence community and military to keep us off balance, right? Because here, on the one hand, you got Bob Lazar, and a lot of people believe Bob Lazar. Some people don't, some people do. But this is how they muddy the waters. And two things can be true at the same time. So remember that when you're dealing with this subject, it's like a maze of confusion the way that they operate. So two things can be true at the same time. Bob Lazar could be legit, and Area 51 was probably leveraged against us, in the 90s, for stealth technology and whatnot. But let's keep going. All right, number four on the list. And this is the Blue Book public debunking, right? And we're going to get into this one. It's going to be fun. This is number 4. Okay. Project Blue Book was the U.S. Air Force's official investigation into UFOs running from 1952 to 1969. While initially aimed at analyzing sightings scientifically, it gradually shifted towards public debunking rather than genuine investigation. What's that remind you of, folks? It's funny how the past kind of rhymes with the present, right? Project Blue Book, Arrow, right? Doesn't it? Reminds you of Arrow. Reminds you of Sean Kirkpatrick, right? Under Captain Edward Ruppelt, the project briefly maintained credibility, categorizing cases in acknowledging unexplained sightings. However, as public interest surged, this is what they do, man. Especially after 1952 Washington, D.C. UFO flap, the Air Force faced pressure to downplay the phenomenon. They were worried about panic, right? He had a group of UFOs over the White House in 1952. You know, there's photos. I might even post it here. By the time Major Hector Quintanilla took over, Blue Book had become one of public relations tool, dismissing cases as misidentifications, hoaxes, or psychological illusions, rather than conducting thorough analysis. And there's still to this day, I believe that there's top secret cases in Blue Book that haven't been released. I believe Danny Sheehan actually saw a photograph of a crashed UFO into a side of a hill. The Condon Report, published in 1969, sealed Blue Book's fate. It conducted that UFO. It concluded that UFO research. It concluded that UFO research was unlikely to yield scientific discoveries, leading to the project's termination. The Air Force's final stance was that UFOs posed no national security threat, had no evidence of advanced technology, and were not extraterrestrial in origin. Sounds familiar, right? Kind of rhymes with the present, past. And there was congressional hearings back then about UFOs, just like there was congressional hearings recently in the present. It all rhymes, man. It's the same playbook. It's the same playbook, man. They figured they could do it again. It worked in the past. Let's do it again. Insane, man. The public debunking strategy ensured that UFOs remained a fringe topic, discouraging serious investigation for decades. You know, you would get laughed out of the room speaking about UFOs and not the too distant past. Seriously, it's a perfect addition to this top 10 disinformation campaign list. But I want to know what you guys think about this. Do you see the pattern like I see it? I want to know, am I just crazy or are we on to something here? Um, I think we are, folks. I think we're on to something here. Um, so they brought Blue Book into existence, right? And purpose was to investigate UFOs, UAPs, right? And you see, my computer's doing weird shit right now. It's been going on my TV. Look at this. Let me show you guys my TV right now. Look at that. You guys see it bouncing? That's what my TV's doing right now. My TV's doing that. I know I sound crazy. I know you guys are gonna think I'm nuts. My TV's doing that. My computer's going batshit crazy right now. I can barely record this. Am I paranoid? All right, let's keep going, man. So anyway, Blue Book started out as a reputable investigation of UFOs, right? And the person that led that was Alan J. Allen Hynek, right? And he's famous in UFO circles because in the beginning, his job, and he said this, was to discredit and debunk UFO cases. Okay. Then after he stopped working for the government, I guess he got disgruntled because they wouldn't disclose anything to him either. They said he didn't have a need to know. And he's like, man, I've been doing this for all these years and you ain't going to tell me the truth. So he came out to the public and he said, listen, man, UFOs are real. And I believe there's a book, his son's still around. I believe his son's still around. And, and it rhymes with today. They had congressional hearings. They created Blue Book, right? What happened now? They congressional hearings. They created Arrow. It was supposed to be this actual investigation into the UFO phenomenon. It turned into a gatekeeper. He ended up resigning. Maybe it's going to be different under Kozlowski. I don't know, but it rhymes with the past, man. And now they're saying that this was all an elaborate hoax. Wall Street Journal reported that just yesterday or the day before. And it's funny how the 60s, it's the same playbook, folks. So let's stay tuned for the next one on the top 10. All right, folks, we're going to do number 3. Number 3 is the Roswell case. I know. Some of you guys are going to be saying this is number 1, but that's why we do this. We can debate that. But number 3 is the Roswell case. You guys ready? Let's get it. So, the Roswell weather balloon cover up. In July 1947, debris was discovered near Roswell, New Mexico, initially reported by Roswell Army Airfield as a flying disc recovery. However, within 24 hours, the military retracted that statement, claiming the wreckage was from a weather balloon. It was a balloon. It was a freaking balloon. They're still saying that today. Decades later, declassified documents revealed that the debris was actually part of Project Mogul. Yeah, this is one of my favorites. I mean, total. Listen to this one. A top secret program using high altitude balloons to detect Soviet nuclear tests. This abrupt shift in the narrative fueled widespread speculation that the government was hiding evidence of extraterrestrial contact. So it was a cover up, cover up, cover up. All right. And not only that, but we got to cover up the cover up that was meant to cover up the cover up. Mannequin explanation for UFO. So they claimed they attempted to further debunk the Roswell related alien claims by suggesting that reports of alien bodies were actually test dummies used in high altitude parachute experiments. These anthropomorphic mannequins dropped from aircraft in the 1950s were said to have been dismembered by witnesses decades later as extraterrestrial beings. However, skeptics argue that this explanation fails to account for firsthand testimonies of Jesse Marcel. And he was the man that was holding up the tinfoil and the sticks in the pictures at Roswell. Remember, he was holding up, it was like tinfoil and some sticks, and they were saying that was the recovered UFO craft. I mean, you can't make it up. Can't make it up, man. Both explanations, Project Mogul and the mannequin theory, have been widely criticized as retroactive cover stories designed to dismiss UFO speculation. You see, folks, the past rhymes with the present. I'm telling you. Occam's razor with these things, man. What would make them want to cover up, and then just keep making up new stories? Yeah, there was actually like a book or something called Roswell Case Closed. And that was when they came out with the mannequin stuff because Jesse Marcel blew the lid off of it, whenever he got older. And that's what I mean about these old men that exposed the UFO truth. This is a reality, man. Don't be fooled by these mainstream media Project Mockingbird hacks. What they are, man. All right, let's go. So I got to figure out what number 2 is. I know you guys are going to say that should have been number 1. Number 2. Number 2 on the list is when Sean Kirkpatrick went before Congress and lied through his freaking teeth. And he said that the whole UFO community, these whistleblowers, all these people were just conspiracy theorists. And they were like a self-licking ice cream cone or something, I believe he said. He was very condescending, very smug. And he ended up resigning shortly after that. It became apparent that he was gatekeeping the whole thing because whistleblowers was taking information to him and then it was going into a black hole. Unless you were like Jason Sands or somebody. Of course, they would let that come out. And I was really close to making Jason Sands number 2. Maybe we can partner them up for number 2. Jason Sands, Sean Kirkpatrick. So Jason Sands, he talks about unaliving lobster clawed aliens in caves. Listen, man, I love James Fox. This is not a shot at James Fox. I love that guy. I love his work. I think the coverage he did with Aerial School was amazing, but I think they got him. And that's what they do. You know, when you're putting out good content and you're in this field, and not like I'm a filmmaker, but I'm saying him, right? You know, in that field, right? Um, they're gonna feed you disinformation. They're gonna send you some wild stuff, and they're gonna hope you latch onto it. And then when you do, all of a sudden, you know, this guy completely changes his story from what he said during the documentary with James Fox to what he's saying now. And this is how they get you. And I believe it was intended to discredit James Fox. So Jason Sands and Sean Kirkpatrick, they're going to share number two. They have to because I got the number one. I can't replace it. So number two, Sean Kirkpatrick and Jason Sands are teammates. They deserve each other, don't they? I think so. All right, let's get to number one. All right, you guys been waiting? It's big. Number one. The number one most egregious, and this is serious. Let me stop smiling. Let me stop joking, because this one, yeah, these people are screwed up. They're bugs. They're bugs. And you're gonna see when I get done explaining this one why it's number one and why the jokes are over. Because I feel like this one is probably the most disgusting things that you could do to a person who was a patriot, who was trying to warn the Air Force that he was seeing UFOs above the air base. So here we go. The disgusting story. To get it off. The disgusting story of Paul Bennewitz. Paul Benowitz affair is one of the most egregious examples of government-led psychological manipulations in UFO history. In the 1980s, Benowitz, a businessman and UFO researcher, became convinced that he had uncovered extraterrestrial activity near Kirkland Air Force Base. He detected strange signals and observed unidentified aerial phenomena, believing them to be evidence of a UFO presence. Instead of correcting his assumptions, because he reported this to the Air Force, trying to warn them, you know, he was being a patriot. And instead of what they did was disgusting. So instead of correcting his assumptions, Richard Doty, yeah, Dick Doty, an Air Force intelligence officer, deliberately fed him false information. Doty and others fabricated UFO documents, staged fake sightings, and encouraged Benowitz to believe he was uncovering a massive alien conspiracy. The intentional deception led Benowitz to have a mental deterioration. He had a mental breakdown, ultimately resulting in paranoia and hospitalization. You know, Doty's actions were not just unethical, they were cruel. He weaponized disinformation to destroy a man's credibility and ruin his life, all in the name of protecting classified military projects that really they probably weren't even doing. What, a plane? Doty's actions were not just unethical, they were cruel, man. It's disgusting. Disgusting. His role in spreading false UFO narratives extended beyond Benowitz, influencing other researchers, muddying the waters of legitimate UFO investigations. Even today, Doty remains a controversial figure, admitting to his involvement in disinformation campaigns while still attempting to maintain credibility in UFO circles. His legacy is a cautionary tale about how intelligence agencies have manipulated public perception of UFOs for decades. Now you understand why I had to make number one, because I believe what they did to Benowitz, it was personal. It was up close. It was, you know, it wasn't like they were running a disinformation campaign on the whole of society. You know, it was one man, and they were like putting these signals into his computer. They had this way of putting this like coded language where anything that you thought you saw, you would see. And it was some kind of algorithm. I'm not sure how they did it, they were able to place these signals in his computer, and he thought that he was receiving signals from extraterrestrials. And this is one of the things that really led to his mental deterioration. And it makes me wonder if there maybe possibly was something going on with UFOs above Kirkland at the time. And maybe that was what they were trying to, you know, muddy the waters. And the fact that Doty's still out there, that Doty's still in the circles, the UFO community, and he's still doing his thing, man. And I was really disappointed when I seen him in Stephen Greer's film. And I didn't believe anything he said, Stephen Greer's film. And I'm not one of those guys that just believe everything. You know, there's some people who just believe everything. You know, they just, they think there's aliens running around. It looks like that have elephants with noses. I don't know. Tell me what you guys think of this list. I really went in hard on it. I really researched for this. I didn't go in depth with anything because if I would have, it would have been a 6-hour video. So, but this is my top 10. What do you guys think? Is this disinformation campaigns? Is this warranted? Don't you think we deserve the truth? And don't you believe deep down that they could tell us the truth without jeopardizing national security? I didn't cover the Amy Eskridge affair in this, although I feel like she was unalived because of what she was doing with anti-gravitic technology. So I didn't add that, although that was one of the most egregious cases. But that one wasn't really disinformation. I believe that they were running disinformation on her. She said that she had boyfriends who she knew were assets of intelligence, and she could tell by conversations that they would have, and then they would disappear after 6 months, and then they would have another one on deck who was real good friends with her, and then she would develop a relationship with that one, and then she would find out he was an asset of intelligence. And I believe that they were trying to drive her crazy as well, but she was just too smart, and they couldn't stop her. She was going to release her findings about anti-gravitic technology. And she actually had she had told a good friend of hers who actually was in MI6, that's British intelligence. And he's come out, he's done interviews, and he said that, she was in good spirits that day. She warned people that she would never hurt herself, that she was happy, that she was not thinking of, unaliving herself. So, and they claim that she unalived herself on her front porch, which is kind of a weird place to do it, right? So let me know what you guys think. Please hit me up in the comments, share it to a friend, share it to 2 friends. I love you guys, man. I'll be back tomorrow. Peace.